Yo, it's Tada time. Yeah. Alright, so today we're going to be taking that idea of percents and doing it to a word problem. So let's review right quick. What is a percent? Well, remember, a percent is a ratio of part to whole. So we're saying this is part of this whole thing. Like, 23%, that's 23 out of 100. So if something's 23%, then the ratio will be 23 to 100. So that's what a percent is. So we can apply those to word problems. And I know what you're saying, Mr. Tedder, when am I ever going to use this? Well, word problems with the percents, you actually use probably more than you think. And as you see, as we dive into the next couple of videos, in the next few weeks, you're going to see that we actually do use percents a lot in real life. All right, so let's look at our first one here. All right, so here in the 7th grade, we have about 170 kids, roughly. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but let's just say we have 170 kids. And let's say that 45 of those kids are virtual, which is a lot of you guys. So we want to know what percent of our 7th grade population is virtual. All right, so remember from the previous video, the first thing we always do is we highlight what we know. That's the best way for you to start a word problem. All right, so let's highlight what we know. So 170, but you'll notice right before 170 is the word of. And if you remember, of means whole. So 170 is our whole student population. 45 is part, because not all kids are virtual. So 45 is our part. So we're going to color that a different color. And what we're trying to find is the percent. So of course we don't know that. So let's fill in what we do know. All right, so we don't know the percent, so we're going to put x over 100 equals 45 over 170, because that's part over whole. And then we just cross it up. So we cross multiply. So we do 45 times 100, which is of course 4,500, and 170x. Divide by 170, and you see that x is 26.47%. But let's round that to the nearest tenth. So it's because the number behind 4 is greater than 5, we're going to bounce that up, and it's 26.5%. So what that answer means in context of the problem is that 26.5% of our 7th graders here at MAMS are virtual. So think about that. That's a real life problem. Mr. Goins or Ms. Santajon or the central office may need to know that. And so they would do this problem right here that you guys just did. You guys could help them out with it. All right, let's look at another problem. All right, you remember Farmer Tedder? Let's bring him back. All right, so Farmer Tedder decides to sell 64% of his potato crop. He gave away 480 pounds. But how many pounds did he start with? That's what we want to know. All right, so let's highlight what we know. We know the 64%, so we're going to highlight that. And we know that the 480 is what he gave away. Well, that's not all of it, because he only gave 64% away. So that's part. So let's highlight that. That's the part. We don't know the whole. That's what we're trying to find, because it says how much did he start with? How much crops did he end up with all together? All right, so let's fill in what we do know. So we do know the percent, so we're going to put 64 over 100 equals 480 over x, because we don't know the part. So of course now we're going to cross multiply. So 100 times 480 is 48,000. And when you divide that by 64, you see that you get 750. So Farmer Tedder started with 750 pounds of potatoes. So as you guys can see, that may be something, maybe you ain't going to be a farmer, but you may end up in the business world. And you want to give away a certain percent of your products or a certain percent of your money to a foundation. You never know. So this is something you guys may end up using in real life. And I know what you're thinking, I'm not going to do that, but you don't know. I told you guys before, I didn't know I was going to be a math teacher until I ended up in high school junior year. All right? So you never know what you're going to end up being. So you may end up using this in real life. And here in a few minutes, we're going to find out problems that we all use in real life. All right? A little bit later in our unit. So I promise percents is something you're going to use in real life. All right? So let's look at a little bit deeper of a complex problem right now. So let me pull it in. All right. So in this problem, we have right here, I'm looking at our whole entire student population here at Mount Airy Middle School. We have roughly 450 students, give or take a few, but let's just round it to 450. All right, so as from the table, you can see we broke down the percent of students who participate in no sports, one sport, two sports, or three or more sports. All right, so no sports is 12%, one sport is 42%, two sports is 28%, and then 18% of our student population do three or more sports. All right, so here's the question. We want to know, out of all the 450 students, how many are in each single category? So how many students participate in no sports? How many students participate in one sport? How many students participate in two sports? And then how many students participate in three or more? So what we have here is actually 4 problems in one. Oh, I know. But hey, let's do it one step at a time. Remember, each one is a victory, okay? Each one is a win on a way to defeating the whole problem. So let's go through it together. All right, so let's just look at no participation. All right, so I'm given the percent, so I can put 12 over 100. And I know I'm trying to figure out part because I know this category is only part of our entire student population. And they gave me the entire population, which is 450. So that whole goes on bottom. So I have 12 over 100 equals x over 450. And so now I'm going to try to solve that, cross multiply. And what I end up seeing is that our answer is 54 students. So 54 students out of the 450 don't participate in sports. And that's because that is 12% of 450. All right, so let's do the one sport. All right, so that was 42%. That was our biggest category. All right, so this should be our biggest answer part of students. All right, so we set that up, 42 over 100 because 42 is a percent. And then on the other side is x over 450 because we're given the whole, we don't know the part. When we cross multiply and solve there, we see that it's 189 students. So 189 of our 450 right here at Mountaineer Middle School participate in one sport, like football, golf, swimming. A lot of you guys participate in one sport. Maybe that's you. All right, so let's look at our two sports. All right, that was 28%. That's our next biggest category. All right, so we set it up the same way as the previous two. 28 over 100 equals x over 450. All right, so we cross multiply there, and we see that our answer is 126 students. So we had 126 that participated in two sports. And now let's look at our three or more. All right, this was 18%. We do it the same way. It's a percent, so I put it over 100, and I'm trying to find out the part over 450. When we cross multiply there and solve, we see that it's 81 students. So as you can see from this, we can use percents in multi-step problems, and sometimes they're going to give us a table. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more in our next video. But we're going to have tables where they actually give us these big numbers, and we just got to find out part and part and part. So just because a problem is complex doesn't mean you can't do it. I want you to think here. I just want to solve that first problem. I just want to solve that no participation if it was this one. All right? And once you do that, say to yourself, all right, let's set another goal. Let's do the one sport. And then let's do the two sport. And then let's do the three or more sports. All right? Don't look at the whole problem as a whole. Look at it in the parts. All right, so let me get this one out of the way. Oh, all right. So what I want you really to look at is when we do percent problems, remember to highlight what you know, fill it in the percent over 100 equals part over whole, and then cross multiply and solve. I know you guys can do this. I've seen you rock percents. I've seen you rock ratios and proportions. So let's just put it together. And I know you guys can do this. Ted time out.